You walk into a prospect and it comes out that you're in the premium finance business, it's like the air is sucked out of the room. You got to be kidding me. I just listened for 10 minutes.
Oh, boy.
I want to provide value.
Yeah.
And providing value, these other things that you can do that enable you to wrap your arms like an octopus around someone.
It's the same in our industry. I mean,
it really is, Sean.
How many, look at the retention rate that you have with your client.
Yeah.
And the more lines of insurance, auto, home, business, life insurance, your retention rate goes up dramatically.
Welcome to the podcast dedicated to real estate, insurance, and everything in between. Join us as we take you along our own brokerage building journeys with additional wisdom from our network of business experts. Welcome to Bricks and Risk. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Bricks and Risk. I'm Tim Garrity.
And I'm Sean Mooney.
Today, Sean, we got one of your homeboys on today. We have Stuart Shepard, the owner of Premium Finance Brokerage. How you doing today, Stuart?
Tim, I'm doing great. Thank you both for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. We know you're a busy guy. So, Stuart started his career with Travelers Insurance Company as a production underwriter in 1987. Then he entered the premium finance space in 1997 with Transamerica Insurance Finance Company. In 2005, he started Premium Finance Brokerage. It's now one of the nation's largest privately held aggregators of property and casualty insurance premium financing. They offer a high-touch, customer-centric experience for their clients, and their firm specializes in helping insurance agents effectively manage their excess and surplus lines financing. And one thing we just learned about our boy Stuart here, based on the helmet behind him, you're a huge Bills fan. So you're a Bills Mafia guy.
I am.
Nice.
Tim, I'm born and raised in Buffalo. I've been a fan almost my entire life. My dad was a steel worker in Buffalo and would take me to Bills games at the old War Memorial Stadium back in the late 60s and early 70s. That's how old I am.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, when you're from that area, I think even when you leave, there is such a connection to both the Bills and the Sabres.
Yep.
That I was a season ticket holder for years. Unfortunately, as you get older, you guys are young. As you get older, your skin gets a bit thinner.
Yeah.
So cold weather becomes a factor in going to some.
It's very Philly-like. I think it's a blue-collar town, if I'm right. Hardworking,
generational,
loyal fan base. So it does remind me a lot of Philly.
Yeah, I would agree. So, all right. So here's a question for you. We talked about, what you did in insurance prior to, and now that you're running your own business. So tell us the story of starting your own business. It's been a couple decades now. So how'd that come to be?
Well, it's a good question, Tim. I was what I would call a reluctant entrepreneur. I spent the first 10 years working in insurance. Sean, you'll know, production underwriting.
Yep.
Did that for basically 10 years, starting my career. And in 97, I got into the premium finance business. And back then, guys, a lot of the finance companies were owned by insurance companies. Today, they're mostly owned by banks. But back then, it was primarily insurance companies like AIG, Westfield, some others. Transamerica, who I worked for, was owned by Transamerica Insurance Group.
Did they only finance their own policies, or would they finance other carriers, other policies?
They would do it all.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So for those who don't know, because we got some people who are in real estate, people who are just entrepreneurs that jump into this podcast. What is that premium finance space? Like, explain what that is exactly.
So you have insurance companies. unlike the ones that you're insured with, Tim, which are probably like State Farm or Travelers or Hartford, those companies have direct bill programs. So you can pay them monthly,
Yep.
you can pay them quarterly, it can be escrowed into your mortgage.
Yep.
But there's other carriers which work in your higher risk industries. And there'll be companies that in your space, Tim, that people probably haven't heard of before. Companies like Lloyd's of London,
Yeah.
Essex Insurance Company, National Casualty. You don't see commercials for these companies, not like Progressive. Okay. Those companies will come to Sean and say, if I'm going to write this person's insurance, you're going to pay me in full. There's no billing plan available with our policies.
Interesting.
That's where I come in.
Very cool.
So I provide a vehicle for these customers to be able to pay monthly. So I give them a loan. They pay us back monthly. You stop paying us, we cancel your insurance. Just like if you stop paying your auto insurance that's on direct bill from whoever Sean has you placed with,
Right.
if you stop paying, they're going to send you a notice of cancellation. Same thing happens in our business. We finance you, you stop paying us, I'm going to cancel your insurance. And then hopefully, when I cancel it, whatever the unearned premium is, that comes back to the lender.
Very
It
interesting.
pays off the loan.
Very niche business. You know, it's
It really is. And I kind of got into it by chance and got into owning this really more or less because the company I was working for got sold.
So it forced you in a way.
I would, yeah, Sean, you're not wrong. What I would say is I was working for a company that allowed me to run a P&L. And when you can look at a P&L and you can see how things are happening, you start peeling away the layers of the onion, you can see exactly what's going on, soup to nuts. When I heard the company was for sale in 2004, the one thing I knew I could do, guys, and listen, I'm not a self-promoter in terms of my own skill, but the one thing that, and it's how Sean and I met, the one thing that's never scared me is knocking on doors. And I feel today it is a lost art. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my working career is building.
Yeah.
Knocking on someone's door and convincing them to use you for your services, for me, was the hardest thing to do. Not in terms of doing it, the work,
Right.
but when you look at people and doing this for your vocation and really even running a business, the building is the hardest part.
Yep.
Without a doubt.
That part, for me, not that I'm great at it, guys, but I really pride myself on the blocking and tackling.
Interesting.
Well, I think it to take it a step further, and we've talked about it on this show a lot, is building your business on relationships. And Tim's done it. That's how he cultivated his book of, real estate business. That's how I've done it with my business. And I know for sure that you've done it with Premium Finance Brokerage.
It's when I started in 2005. So again, reluctant entrepreneur. I had one employee. I brought her with me and I had a non-compete. So I genuinely had to start from scratch.
Oh.
Now I had a couple of accounts that I could bring that were outside of my non-compete, but in July of 2005, I basically hit the road in areas I've never canvassed. And it's really hard, guys, I have found, whether it's social media, using the phone, nothing to me replaces eye to eye contact with someone. It's how Sean and I started doing business together. I walked in his door and I said, "This is what I do. Do you do this?" And at the time, I think, Sean, you said, "Hey, I do very little."
Yep.
And I said, "Well, at some point, because you're building your business, I'm building mine, at some point you'll need me." And as time went on, I just kept in touch with Sean. I'd stop in and see him. And once the seal gets broken, once you start getting into that type of business that requires our services, the hope is that I've touched him enough that I'm the first person that he calls.
Or we're willing to give you a try.
Yeah.
And then you have to deliver.
That's right.
Yeah, talk about, all right, so let's define knocking on doors for you. What kind of things were you doing to set yourself up to be like, whose doors am I knocking on? How am I doing it? So once I get to the address, what's my pitch? What's my presentation? What's my script? Talk a little bit about knocking on doors, because I think what's really some of the things we value about this show is that it's about real estate insurance and building your business. Yeah. And as you just said, building your business, whether it's your business or you're just, you got a team or a group within a big company, it doesn't matter. You're still running a business. It's still up to you. Like, you're not bringing home money unless you're doing deals. So what does that look like for you when you were doing that? Like, how did you prepare? Like, how did you execute? Go into some of that.
Tim, that's really, I pride myself on this. Every day when I started, I had a plan for that day.
Oh. And
that plan, if I was on the road, the hope was I could schedule 4 appointments. Okay. 9, 11, 1, and 3. The appointments, it's hit or miss because you're calling, or it's someone you stopped to see and you came back later at that visit and scheduled an appointment with them to see them at some other time. Mm-hmm. So the idea for me was to have 4. The day was 20. So I wanted to have 20 physical visits in a day. Now, in our business, I could go to Baltimore. I could come to Philly. And in a tight geographical space, I could find 20 agents. And I primarily call on independent agents. So State Farm and Allstate, agencies like that don't use us. So there's a segment that's not going to use us. But I would go to a town. I would try to identify who the largest commercial producers were. Those were my first priority. I would simply knock on their door. Oh. And what I have found, and again, I'm just going to use my own experience. I can't speak for you guys or any other.
Oh, this is what
person
we want
in the industry. My experience is this. If I'm standing in front of you, most people are good people. They're not going to be rude. I've been doing this for 37 years. I've knocked on doors for that long. I can count on one hand someone who was ignorant to me. Most people will give you 5 minutes. And I never say to people, at first, I'm in the premium finance business. You say that, it's a vampire Santa Claus. Okay. People are going to be like,
so what is that? What is that, intro in? If you're not saying, hey, I'm with the finance company, how are you?
Yeah, you can't come in
working around that.
You can't come into Philly and say you're a Bills fan, because that's not going to work.
No, listen, guys, I had more doors in my face saying that than I have selling premium financing.
I did throw a guy out who said he was a Cowboys fan. I was like,
oh, well, that, of course you have to.
You got to have some common sense there.
Right.
Listen, everybody, guys, listen. The one thing about Bills fans, nobody buys hope better than us.
Oh, yeah. This is the year.
4 straight Super Bowls. You have more heartbreaking defeats.
Oh.
There's a sympathy factor that people have when you say you're a Bills fan.
100%.
Milk that.
It's part of my narrative.
That's awesome.
But Sean, you may remember this. When I stopped in to see you, the first thing I say, business-wise, do you do any excess and surplus lines business?
At the time, I was probably like, "What's that, Stuart?"
Right.
Tell me what that part of my business is.
And you didn't.
Yeah.
But if an agent says to me, well, of course, they have no idea what I do unless they see this.
Yep.
So if they see the logo, premium finance, usually that hasn't connected yet. So you soften the sale, you soften the approach by not even saying what you do. I haven't even introduced myself yet. Do you do any excess and surplus lines business? Yes. Tell me about that. Do you specialize in a certain line? Do you do trucking? Do you do medical malpractice? I want them to talk, not me. But if the answer is no, Tim, the call is probably done in 5 minutes.
Gotcha.
But the note is made. I saw Sean. I get back to the car. I saw Sean. He does mostly personal lines. He's not doing commercial, but he's just getting started. So he becomes part of our database, and we're going to touch him every month because you never know when it might change. And I've had that happen, guys, more times than not, where you don't think you do any. But in the market that we're in right now, if you're not doing any, you will be.
Interesting.
But it may be you're a casual user.
Stuart,
But you
did you?
never know.
Sorry to interrupt. Did you do any? So, going from a corporate banking finance background to starting your own and getting on the road and trying to knock down doors, did you have a formal sales training program that you went through, or that you did, or maybe you'd done it over the years, or was just this approach something that you knew you needed to do? You needed to go out and reach people, and was your pitch and your delivery because it felt natural for you?
I really feel, Sean, if you want to be the best at whatever it is you do, whether it's building widgets or
Yep.
being in sales, you have to invest in yourself. And I invested a lot of money in my training to be what I am. Telespectrum, professional sales, PSS, the Xerox program, Dale Carnegie. If you want to be at the top or near the top, you don't have to do it, but the skills that they teach you are invaluable.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a firm believer in that. I'm a firm believer. I think some of it can come off sometimes, depending on who your audience is. I think you've got to be sensitive to how you approach people.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the knowledge you learn, especially to close, because I think, and I'm not sure how you guys feel, the building, as I mentioned before, the hardest thing to do.
Sure. Yep.
The second hardest thing is to ask for the order.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is to close.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and people do this, and guys, I'm guilty of it in some settings because, again, you have to be aware of who your audience is. To use a subtle close, but to use a hard close every time, I think can turn people off.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. Also,
know your audience, know who you're talking to. But I think those skills, the building, the opening the door, and the closing the door, I think through professional training, it really teaches you how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I would agree.
guys, I'm not the best, never profess to be the best. But what I will tell you is when I say I make 20 calls, I make 20 calls.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
it might be 5:05 on a Friday afternoon. I'm knocking on that door. Till the lights are off, you're open.
Yeah.
Here's a question. So you meet with someone like Sean. He's new to the independent insurance ownership game. He's not really doing business that applies to your company. What did you drip on someone like Sean once a month? Like, was that a phone call? Was that a letter? Was it email? Was it visiting him again? Like, what were you doing to stay in touch with Sean over the years to start working together?
Mostly email to start.
Yep.
But Sean, what I would do with Sean is Sean for me, when he started, wasn't what I would call a platinum prospect, which platinum for us is defined as $1 million in financing or more. We categorize those people too. So we set an agenda for the number of times we're going to connect with that person through physical visits.
Oh.
Sean, because he was a casual user, was once a year. And that call may only be 5 to 10 minutes to catch up.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you doing? Now, the thing I remembered about Sean from our first visit was he played lacrosse.
Yeah.
I coach lacrosse. I'm an official. My son plays. So there was a connection with Sean and me when we started. But Sean, because of how we classified him as a casual user, he would not get many physical visits from us or from me because he's my account.
Yeah.
But Sean is in our email distribution. We do it once a month. And a lot of it is, I'm sure it's like yours, Tim. We talk about industry. We talk about events. We talk about some of the changes that we see going on in insurance and premium financing. And some of it could be, it's Memorial Day. Let's honor those who've fallen. It's a touch point. May or may not be insurance or premium finance related, but we're touching it.
Yeah.
Stuart,
But that's what we do. We classify, and not everybody on our team does this. I do. We classify an agent based on the amount of business they produce with us or without us. And that classification dictates how much we call on them. Now, some could be platinum, but they're closed-minded.
Yep.
I'd call on that guy 4 times or gal 4 times a year. But if they're closed-minded, it's once.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they've got an existing relationship they've had for 15 years. There could be a reason why, but we're not going to dedicate as much time to someone who we view as closed-minded. But you never know when that might change.
Yeah. You never know when their mind's going to open.
Stuart,
Well, they have a bad experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
you mentioned before,
What they call
Stuart, with the market right now. And you did say that if you didn't have an access to an E&S marketplace, that you should because of the demand recently. And I see it, this industry went through, in the last 12 to 24 months, some of the biggest changes in the industry that I've seen in the last 20 years. Can you talk a little bit about how this marketplace, this industry, this hard market has impacted what you're seeing on the E&S side, and then subsequently the financing that's attached to it?
I don't think it was your last episode, Sean. You were talking about what's happening in your space.
Yeah.
With the standard lines and the increases in inflation.
You listen to that?
Listen, man, I've watched every episode twice.
Loyal listener.
My man. I love it.
No, it's our business, Sean, is experiencing the same type of impact as your business. We have seen incredible increases. And I was just talking to somebody today about this. This market, and I'll ask you guys, post 9/11, 2002, were you, Sean, you weren't an agent yet, right?
No.
Tim, were you in business?
So right when 9/11 happened, I was actually backpacking in Europe because we just graduated college. And
When you say we, you mean you just graduated college.
I'm saying I graduated. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Sean was like a super senior. But yeah, I went backpacking in Europe. I was in Belgium when 9/11 happened. So I'm overseas, internet cafes where how I was communicating with people back home on my trip just to tell them I was safe. But then when I came back, to answer your question, there were no jobs because the stock market had crashed, economy had halted, everyone had an American flag hanging outside of their home. Like I came back to like a different America from where I left, which was really crazy. So yeah, I was just hustling. I was like waiting tables, expediting, things like that. And then I got in the mortgage business in 2000, probably like midway through 2002.
Yeah. Well, post 9/11, the insurance market. Now, I was working for someone else at that point, so I wasn't premium finance brokerage then, but I was in the business. So post 9/11, 1/1/2002, the insurance market really came unraveled, kind of like what's happening now.
Wow.
And back then, it was really property driven. And Sean, you can appreciate this.
Sure.
You have 9/11, city exposures, high rises.
Yep.
And what was
Tria.
happening, guys, was, and this is how crazy it was. So you'd write a building, the building would be insured by, let's say, the Travelers. Okay. Post 9/11, depending on the values, you might have 4 or 5 insurance companies just writing the property on that building
Yeah.
with what's called layered. So each company would take a portion of the risk. They'd layer it.
It's like Lloyd's with their syndicates.
Exactly right, Sean.
Yep. We'll take
It's
a little piece.
exactly-
Hey, if I take 20, will you take 20?
Wow.
That's
So it's
exactly
like
right.
like a cooperative deal kind of.
Yeah.
It really is. That's a great way to put it, Tim. It's a cooperative. You got 5 entities, 5 insurance carriers partnering to write one risk. And there were lines where it was almost uninsurable.
Yep.
I'd literally drive down Westchester Pike. I'd be throwing applications out the window. People are calling me guys left and right. I mean, I had more business coming in.
Wow.
And this is where I go back to what I was saying before. The seeds that were planted in 2099, when I'm just out grinding, trying to build,
Yep.
that's when you hope that that person remembers who you are and you're the person they call. So the market today is very similar to what it was then,
Wow.
where
Good
these
analogy.
increases are substantial. And here's what happens in our business, guys. Not to get too deep in the weeds here, but this is a great business, okay? Because the insurance is the asset that securitizes the loan. Tim, you don't pay me, I cancel your insurance.
Yep.
The return that we get, you hope covers the balance of the loan. If it does, it's virtually risk-free. The problem today is Sean brings me a risk. It was 20 grand last year. It's 50 this year. And the
Wow.
insured says, dude, I don't have the down. I can't come up with 25%. So now Sean comes to me and says, can you give me 10% down? And that's what's happening today. So if I give one of Sean's clients 10% down, the risk we have in that loan now, it went from virtually no risk to risk.
Do a lot of risk.
So that
yeah.
return, if I cancel it, Tim's not going to cover the balance of the loan.
And it's more of a timing thing. So, 30 days notice to cancel and then beyond that. So like you have to have enough money up front, right, Stuart?
That's right.
Where you're not going to get burnt.
Yep.
And so as you mark down that down pay, the time, that window of time now it's more of a risk because of that.
That's
Oh,
right.
interesting.
So that's really, when you look at the industry today, And I would encourage all of your viewers, go back and watch the episode where Sean talked about the state of the insurance market.
I thought that was super
Okay.
helpful.
What
We do have
episode
smart
was that, Sean?
listeners.
We do.
What episode was that, Sean?
Just a couple ago, it was
Yeah,
about
18, 17, something like that.
Yeah.
19.
Yeah. So we're seeing the same thing.
Yep.
The difference is our policies, because they're in a different segment of the industry, the cancellation provisions are different. And we deal with a different clientele because the industries tend to be riskier.
Sure.
We do a lot of trucking,
Okay.
and trucking right now is really in a tough place. The increases that we've seen and the access to insurance companies right now, Sean, you know this,
Oh, yeah.
it is so tight. And the cancellations and the people that can't pay is unprecedented.
Well, I think too is the premiums are up, but then you also, fuel cost is for a lot of the trucking industry is a big factor in that. So
Right.
when you couple them, and I'm sure there's additional items that are being inflated at the same time, like all of these things hitting at once.
Right.
Yeah, that brings up a question. So you're big on, I would like to call it more cold marketing to start. You're going to go out and meet people you don't know. You're going to call on people, knock on doors. It takes a lot of guts, like doing that. So you don't really know who you're going to meet. Once you meet people, you meet someone like Sean, and he's new, not really in your space yet, but he probably will be. Who's like an ideal client for you?
Ideal client.
Those platinum ones that,
Well, not if they're closed-minded.
yeah, that's true.
Well, yeah.
Good point.
It's, Tim, here's what I would tell you. At some point in time, every independent agent is going to need us. I have agencies that you'd walk up to their shop and you would think, you know what? I can't imagine they're doing any kind of business with me.
Mm-hmm.
They're two-person agencies, but they specialize in something.
Yep.
It's medical malpractice. It's D&O. It's trucking. This is what's so challenging about how you market in the field, because you really don't know. Unless you go onto their website and you see what they do. If you're out knocking on doors, I could walk into a shop and I have these. They have $50 million worth of commercial insurance, but they only finance $750,000.
Oh.
I've got some agencies the same size as Sean that finance every piece of business or close to it.
Whoa.
So it's really hard.
Yeah.
You can't go into KOP, all these beautiful buildings, high rises, office complexes, walk into an agency, they may not have anything for me today. But I go into downtown Sewickley, Pennsylvania, on a street corner,
Yep.
in a small shopping center. And that person specializing in medical malpractice or trucking, or does a lot of restaurants, bars, taverns, things that we do.
Wow.
So you really don't
got to
know.
shake you really got to shake trees and stir things
You
up.
do.
Like you
You do.
have to, because you have no clue. You can even read the website and be like, I still don't know. This website
right.
is not good. Maybe it's not built to be good. It doesn't need to be consumer facing.
That's
It's just there to say, hey, this is where our office is. This is our number. We've been in business for 50 years. They're just trying to educate the public. And then you walk in, and then it's almost like, it's like the gold rush. Like you
Yeah.
struck gold. You're like, whoa, these are my people. And they're
That's
like,
right.
yo, even though we're in Pennsylvania, we like the Bills too. You're like, all right, yo, I'm buying lunch. Yo, what do you guys eat?
I haven't found that many yet.
Right.
I gotta be honest with
Few
you.
and far between.
It's more the people who I know now who are Bills fans, I swear to you guys, it's a sympathy factor now
Right.
because they know me.
Or generational. Maybe their parent, grandparent, something like that came from upstate New York. They're like, I love Niagara Falls. I'm down here now.
Yeah, a
That's
lot of
cool.
transplants. You see them more in the South,
Yeah.
Carolinas.
Yeah, I could see that. They're
But,
like, if I'm going to go
but-
south, I'm going to go south. I want weather.
Exactly.
Hey, everyone. This is Tim, your favorite Bricks and Risk co-host. But don't tell Sean. I hope you're enjoying this episode, and I'll get right back to it in a moment. Our audience grows through word of mouth. So if you would please take a moment of your time and give us a review on the platform you're on, that would be fantastic. Please also help spread the B&R word by sharing your favorite episode with a friend. We greatly appreciate your time and trust. Now, back to the show.
Stuart, I'm in the process over the next year of trying to acquire another agency. And I've been doing my diligence, searching, talking to people, making connections with other agency owners.
This is like the official announcement. We're like really talking about where Mooney's business is going and what he's looking to do. So this is awesome.
One of the many things that we're trying to accomplish
Yes.
in the next 12 months.
Awesome.
And the list is long. But I heard you speak of this at a different time, that PFB does offer that in terms of financing or different options. Can you talk to me or talk about the offerings that PFB does, maybe outside of just a policy financing?
Yeah, we do. Of course, with the market getting tighter, it's getting harder to do this because of the way the economy is right now, guys. So we're a little more selective in terms of some of the alternative lending that we do. But let me expand on your question with just not so much. I'll bring agencies into this, Sean, but we do a fair amount of lending to agencies in terms of lines of credit,
Okay.
in terms of capital purchases. We also do some lending to their insureds where, let's say, they can't afford their down payment. We'll provide a straight commercial loan
Oh,
for that person.
Interesting.
Admittedly, it's getting harder
yeah.
because banks are getting tighter.
Yep.
Underwriting's getting tighter.
And when did
And
you
I'm
see
sure
that?
you see this, Tim, in your business. I mean,
Yeah.
the way rates
Oh,
on
yeah.
the mortgage side,
Yep.
the way rates have affected a person's capacity to borrow, we're seeing the same thing with the alternative
Yeah.
stuff that we do. But that's part of how we have a very unique approach, and I'm sure you guys are the same way. We have a program called Concierge Service Plus, where we really try to get our arms around an agency to provide a lot of services, whether it's managing their premium finance asset or doing alternative lending. The agency purchasing that you're talking about, Sean, the market, and you've seen this, has really recalibrated
Oh, yeah.
with
Well,
all these aggregators.
from an all-time high, right, in terms of
Yeah.
what was, the deals being done, to now falling off of a cliff.
A lot more risk.
Just the number of deals that were, the number of acquisitions
Oh,
that were being done.
right. I'm
on
saying
it.
is it lower now because of the risk? Who you acquire, what if something goes wrong with their clients?
No, I think the forces that are, and maybe Stuart can speak to this, but number one, it's almost like anybody that wanted to sell, like
Yeah.
sold because of the multiples
When the
were
stock-
so
when the
high in
stocks
the
were
last
high.
year or
Yep.
two.
Yeah.
And some other different reasons.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
If you look back, and I'll go back to when I was a greenhorn underwriter with the Travelers back in '87. Okay. In the '80s, an agency was sold for about 1.5 times their annualized commission. And that was usually paid out, guys, over a 3-year period.
Yep.
So you would pay 50% of the retained business over a 3-year period, 1.5 times. What's happened, and those deals were a lot easier to help finance because there wasn't a whole lot, or if any, upfront money.
Yep.
Now, these big Acrisure Assured Partners, you know the name, Sean.
Yep.
It's money up front. That has put a restriction on us in terms of what we can do. What we have done to help agencies buy, the big component for us now is the premium financing, Sean.
Yeah.
There has to be a significant amount of premium financing for us to even consider it. Now, what's changed in our business, I mentioned before, guys, about how it was mostly insurance companies that owned premium finance companies years ago.
Yeah.
Now they're banks. But what the finance companies do is like what we're doing, but on a much grander scale. They look at how much premium financing you have. So when you take a company like a PCF or an Acrisure who's aggregating a tremendous amount of volume, much more than we do, okay, the lender or the finance company will look at that and use that as an asset.
Well, you measure it and say, oh, if we can bring this amount into our business, it's just an additional revenue stream.
That's
And
right.
so it's, money out of pocket would be less for them. Yeah, I get that.
But for an agency like yours, Sean, if you wanted to hire a producer, would there be a way for us to help you? There's absolutely a way.
Oh, wow. So when
We
you're
can help
talking about lines of credit or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like financing for your staff. So you might not go out and gobble up another company because of the things you guys were just talking about. You may
Right.
go out and find a really good, productive insurance agent who works somewhere, who has relationships, says, I see what Sean's doing.
Right.
I'm going to come over here with Sean because Sean wants me to be a part of his growing operation.
That's right.
And then you're like, well, that person's not cheap because they're making a lot of money. And in order for me to bring them here, like I got to pay them some big bucks. So you would maybe have like a line of credit or a loan that he could go to pay for that person to come to him. Maybe they're in for like a 2-3 year contract, however it works in your industry. And then they're just growing that business. Now they work for Moody Insurance Brokerage.
It's a great, I'm really big on this, Tim. You have to make it more than about price and about just selling your product. And what I mean by that is I genuinely believe that people want to be touched. I think my generation more so than the younger generation, but they want to feel like they're important to you.
That you care.
Exactly.
It's huge.
And what we try to do is we try to create things, these different products, where if I can get my arms further around that client and provide more of a value add, because I can tell you, because I've been there, when you walk into a prospect and it comes out that you're in the premium finance business, it's like the air is sucked out of the room. You got to be kidding me. I just listened for 10 minutes.
Oh, boy.
I want to provide value.
Yeah.
And providing value, these other things that you can do that enable you to wrap your arms like an octopus around someone.
It's the same in our industry. I mean,
it really is, Sean.
Look at the retention rate that you have with your client.
Yeah.
And the more lines of insurance, auto, home, business, life insurance, your retention rate goes up dramatically.
Yeah, because they've committed more and more to you over the years. Maybe they start out with home and auto. Right. I own a house, I have a car. All right, do my basics. Yep. Then, you know what? I just started my own business. I'm in premium finance now. So it's like, hey, I'm going to need some business insurance. Oh, I just bought a a second home, the South Jersey Shore, Pocono Mountains,
Yep.
like whatever. And then you just become an extension of their life growing and becoming successful financially, because you're going to have to be there to mitigate those risks. And they're probably not going to be like, well, I'll do half with Sean and I'll do half with Sally.
Well, it's also
Right.
too, you're taking insurance off the table. Like I deal with Sean.
Yeah.
Right.
For X, Y. It's
Exactly.
not, it's not
even
oh,
about the company.
It's not,
Right.
It's about you.
Right.
About
Yep.
working with you. I need you to ensure this
yep.
because
That's
I
right.
trust you. So tell me what that's like. And most of the time, you don't have an Excel spreadsheet. You're like, Sean, Sally, and Bill. No, you're just talking to Sean. He gives you the numbers. Obviously, he's going to do whatever he can to take care of that relationship. And then when you get the numbers, you might be like, huh, that's even less than I
Right.
thought. Or thank
Well,
you for
and-
educating me.
And I think what you find, guys, and it's really fascinating, when you talk to the end user, so when Sean talks to his insured, and we don't talk to the end user very often, really, unless the agent wants us to, and you'll ask that person, well, who are you with? Well, I'm with Sean. No, what carrier are you insured with? No, I'm with Sean.
Yeah.
They don't know.
And they're like, oh, Mooney.
Yeah.
Of
Right.
course.
The hat.
You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't really, and that's, I think at the end of the day, that's what you want.
Totally.
No, and we talked to Corey Schnabel about this, and he
What is
gives,
on that hat anyway? Is that a rooster?
It's a quail.
The hell? All right, keep going.
We talked to Corey Schnabel, and it was he maps out the story. There you go.
Guys, I wear this at the games when I go.
Oh, I love it.
He was
It's
ready
well
for
worth
us.
too.
He was ready for us. He talks about going to a baseball game, and one of his,
Yeah,
you
this
know,
was a really good story.
he's at the ball game, and he's got one of his best referral partners with him at the baseball game. And there was another guy at the game as well. And so they're sitting there talking, and he says, "Oh yeah, Jim. Yeah, you know Corey. Yeah. He's with State Farm." And he's like, "Oh yeah." And they talk for 5 or 10 minutes. And then Jim goes away. And Corey turns, he says, "No, I'm not with State Farm, right?" And he goes, "It doesn't matter. He goes, "You're my guy."
I want you to work with Corey.
You know?
That's totally true.
It's
It
so
really
the
is.
relationship kind of trumps the carrier,
Totally.
the policy, the premium.
My business too. You know, I just had a change in my business recently, which was partnership based, and I had to shift. I had to shift my business, my personal business, as well as I have agents that work for me. And when I shifted my business, you know, I had to tell a lot of people I was doing it, and a lot of people still came with me that were already working with me because they're like, look, we don't care if you're with ABC Real Estate or XYZ Real Estate. We want to work with Tim. And we see the value that you have brought to us over the years.
Yeah.
And if anything, the shift that I made, I thought even provided them with more value, better financial structure, more people to talk to, learning opportunities, larger company. It's like, and you already they're just like me. They're like little Tims with their books of business,
Right.
and they're running around trying to grow it just like I am. I practice. And we just said, we're stronger together.
Well, it's
than we are
because it's
apart.
about the relationship.
100%. Totally.
You know, if you're not relying on building relationships and you go somewhere else,
Yeah, it's huge.
It's got to be more like in our business, Sean. And I can't speak for yours, Tim, but I know in our business, and I say this to our entire group, if it's in on price, it's out on price. So you may get it because you've come in and you've cut somebody's deal
Yeah.
just to get it. If that's all you have, you're going to lose it too,
True.
the same way that you got it.
Yep.
And that's why I think it's so important. This relationship is so important. You had a guest on, and I can't recall his name. And he was talking about how I'm always going to be here for you, but the social part of it is not really
Jared.
Oh, it's Jared. Yeah.
Jared.
Yeah.
Jared with Direct Mortgage
Yeah.
Loan Company out of Philadelphia.
great guest. Great guest.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I could not be. I look at how I do things, and I know guys like him,
Mhm.
and you can be incredibly successful that way. Obviously, he is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very successful.
That is not me. That's not the way. And there's different
It's
ways.
not me
to
either.
spin this
It's really
thing,
funny
guys.
too. That's like complete opposite of me.
I want to be, when you call me, I'm not your premium finance person.
Yeah.
I'm your partner.
Yep.
We're partners together. Let me help you with this deal, whether it's through premium financing, alternative lending, but we're going to try to find a deal in there somewhere for you to get done. But don't look at me as just that person. And I think part of getting to know someone, like the whole lacrosse thing, Sean, that stuck with me.
Sure. Yeah.
You played. I'm an official. My son plays.
Mm-hmm.
It's
a connection. Finding the connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, that's what's helped the longevity of the relationships that I have, are the personal interactions I have and the genuine care that I've got in people.
I love that.
And partners.
Here's something you brought up earlier that I want to just dive like a little bit deeper into. You talked about your concierge, I believe it's called Concierge Service Plus program. Talk a little, I was grasping what you were saying because you were like doing a broad level. Dive a little bit deeper into that. Like, what is that program for your company?
It's a white glove approach, Tim. So what we do is we look at premium financing as an asset. It's a part of how an agency, it's in your agency, it's part of your business. And for a lot of agencies, it's a profit center. So we consider it an asset. And what we do, and this is what's very unique about us, if you're a high-end user of financing, we offer, as an extension of your agency, a separate set of hands to manage that business. So here's what you'll get from us. Every week, we're going to send you a summary of your business. There's going to be an Excel spreadsheet, which I've told our folks here, you don't have to open it. You don't even have to look at the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet's going to tell you all the accounts and where they stand and everything. But we're going to, in a narrative, tell you exactly what's happening with your business. You'll get a bullet point narrative, exactly what's going on with your accounts. If this account's going to cancel, let's say I have financed you, Tim, you're going to cancel. We're canceling you tomorrow. Okay. Now, maybe you didn't get the bill. On behalf of the agent, I'm going to contact the finance company and tell them to hold that cancellation. Your policy gets canceled, they may not reinstate you if you pay me later.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do is we approach that finance company. We say, look, I want a 5-day hold from that cancellation. We haven't even spoken to the agent yet.
Wow.
We've just done it. We go back to the agent to advise them, look, you want to cancel? We'll lift the 5-day hold. But we're doing this as a value-added benefit because maybe that client didn't get their bill. Maybe the bill was mailed and didn't get there in time. But these types of things, and Sean, you can comment on this. You're running an agency. You don't have time for that.
Well, number one, I was going to say, let's say the person who's heading up the accounting department takes another job. Now you've got 30 days where hair's on fire. Everybody's running. Nobody knows who's doing what bills are paid, what bills are not paid. Right. And so this could be a very common occurrence for a lot of businesses, number one. And number two, I don't think there's anyone out there that's offering this type of service. I've never heard of this level of service, especially from a premium finance company. Maybe you have competitors, maybe you speak to that, but the proactive nature.
I was going to say proactive, not reactive. You know that these things happen. You know that people miss things. You know that an employee might leave and someone drops the ball. So rather than them get screwed, you're like, we have already put this in place to give you a window of time to make sure you understand what the issue is. Like you said, maybe they're like, I'm done. Thank you for everything. Or 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh my gosh, no, we just didn't see it. what's going
Right.
on. Thank you for doing that. You really saved me here. That's cool.
And let me tell you, the biggest part of this is right now with this industry and this marketplace, there are certain carriers out there on certain accounts that if they can get rid of you as a client,
Yeah, they're waiting for that.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. I
Right
didn't think of
now.
That's
that.
a great point, Sean.
it's if it like, let's say your policy renewed in March,
Yeah.
you had a claim
They're
in
just,
May,
They're just looking for an opportunity to like
That's right.
lower their risk.
and the door becomes open because you
Oh
were
my
late on a
gosh.
payment. Boom. They will get rid of you so fast. And so the value add that I see with the program is the ability to avoid those situations, because that's the worst scenario you can deal with as an agency, because now you've got a policy to
Yeah.
cancel. Now you've got a claim involved. Now you're scrambling to try to find new coverage, which is near impossible because now nobody wants
no one
you.
wants to touch you.
That's right.
Doesn't matter what happened.
So the value add of that program to have a proactive approach on behalf of an agency, to me, is invaluable.
And see what happens in our business. And I can't comment on yours, Tim, but I know with Sean, we get these spreadsheets, deck pages, policies. They're mind numbing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I've seen them.
You've got 100 lines of data.
Yep.
We're telling you what's happening. You don't have to open it. Don't even look at it. We're telling you exactly what the crisis is, who's going to cancel, and what needs to be done. And we're doing it on your behalf. If we get in touch with you and you say, no, don't do that, okay, we'll pull that off, let it cancel. I know that person's not going to pay, let him cancel.
Yep.
95 times out of 100, it's thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for this service.
Awesome.
You just saved this person 5 extra days to make a payment. Think about this too, Sean. Now you have a potential chargeback. This thing cancels.
Oh, yeah.
Now you have a chargeback in
The
your
old
revenue.
chargeback.
Right.
Yep.
So that's it. It goes back to what I was saying before, Tim.
And to define that, for Tim and
Yeah.
everybody else.
What the hell is that?
So you write a policy,
Mhm.
cancels, carrier cancels the policy, chargeback. The agent who wrote the
Oh, for the
account
commission.
needs to cough up the money.
Whoa. It's like you just closed
Yeah.
the deal, but that happened. Bring it back.
Yep.
That's
Like
right.
it's like it never happened.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And so
hardcore.
the avoidance for a chargeback is just, again, another.
It's like a grace period to help you out with that.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. So that's a big part of CSP. We also do some other things for pre-approvals on loans, on larger loans. We'll go to the market that we have that insured with, and we'll get pre-approved payment terms. We give access to alternative lending. We also have a person on staff now with over 30 years of credit and underwriting experience. He ran a branch for one of our competitors. So what we do is we review financials. We look at insureds. We pull from various credit services to underwrite an account before sending it to the lender. So we can tell an agent, look, this insured's got some warts. Or you know what? This person's great. She's going to be awesome. We'll be a perfect pay. We'll get it to the market and we'll ask for really flexible payment terms. So these services that we offer, they're not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But for agencies like Sean, agencies that are you're running half the time with your hair on fire. You're not looking at, oh, this guy's going to cancel. We're doing it for you. And that's where, again, it's in on price, it's out on price.
Yeah. No,
These
I
other
love that.
things-
That's so relative to so many industries.
Create the separation that I think that we provide for anyone looking for a white glove experience. That's our sizzle. That's the special sauce for us, guys.
That's cool. Very cool. All right, I'm gonna shift it a touch and lighten this up. I mean, insurance can technically be a little bit of a dry subject. But
Oh, come on, Tim.
I ask our. This is my new question now. I ask our guests this: are you an iPhone guy or are you a Droid guy?
I'm an iPhone.
Yeah,
I'm an
Finally.
my
iPhone.
boy. I knew it.
Finally got one.
I knew he was. Tell
Wow. Is
me.
it just me and Tim?
That's it.
Tell me why you appreciate the iPhone so much.
Listen, man, I in the spirit of full disclosure, Tim,
Yes, please do.
my son told me to get an iPhone.
Yep.
I got an iPhone.
That's because your son's smart.
Yeah, I'm not the most
Mm.
technologically savvy, so I really couldn't tell you why, other than his recommendation.
Yep,
Sometimes it's as
Yeah.
easy as that.
that's fair. I still won this one though, so I'm feeling good about that.
Put it on the board.
Put down the win column.
Put it on the board. Love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I want to go over real quick is Sean and I love quotes. We always ask all of our guests, please give us a quote or some quotes that you like. Your quote, which is so super relevant to everything you shared with us, especially your approach to business building, is eat what you kill. Why does that stick with you so well in business?
It's and I've said this before on this show. The hardest thing to do, Tim, is build. I'm a firm believer in that. And the only way to build, or the only way I think to really test how good you are in sales, is to go into a position like this, like the one that you're in and the one that Sean's in, where there is no safety net.
Yep.
I've never worked as hard in my entire life, guys, since I started this in 2005. And knowing it was for my family, it puts it on a different plane. You don't have the security. You don't have, there's no social safety net that's going to catch you when you eat what you kill. And I'll tell you, I did some things, and I'll share with you a quick story. Sean knows I love to tell these little stories.
Love them.
Please do.
If I was working for the company, I probably never would have done this. But I think it was 2006, so I'm a year in, okay? And it's not even a year, 9 months. And you guys both know 9 months is, the light is probably the train coming at you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm in Weirton, West Virginia, okay, outside of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And I had to go to Beckley, West Virginia that night. So again, going back to what I was saying about my 20 calls, I made full use of my time. I was here till 5 o'clock, knocked on the doors, left there. I got down to Beckley at about 11 o'clock. Okay. I'm staying at an Econo Lodge. You ever stay at one?
I've been in a kind of lodge before. Yeah.
It's like the Four
Is that like in a
Seasons.
drunken,
They're like
is that like in a drunken stupor?
that's like basic as basic gets. Probably I had
Yes.
to stop on like a road trip or something. We're just like, oh, $89 a night. We're in.
So $29.99 a night.
Whoa.
Yeah. Beckley, West Virginia.
So not
Okay.
like the Four Seasons.
No, yeah. Listen.
Did they have eggs Florentine?
Well, I can tell you they had the doors were on the outside of the building, kind of a thing, you know?
Bars on the windows.
Oh. So anyway, I get to town, and of course, I'm dead tired. And I walk into the office, and they've got this old-fashioned water fountain. And there's caution tape covering the water fountain. I'm not even thinking a thing of this, guys. Okay. So go to the front counter, check in, and the guy brings up 2-gallon jugs of water. And I'm like, okay, what's this for? He said, well, you didn't hear we had an E. coli outbreak here in this town? I'm like, what?
This is your
He's like,
shower,
"Oh, yeah,
and
we
this
gotta-"
is for breakfast.
Guys, that was at a point you're questioning yourself.
Wow. Yeah.
Did
You're
I
like,
make the
what
right
am
decision
what am
here
I
to
doing?
do this?
Yeah.
But what made that story so great, so I stayed there that night, $29.99 with an E. coli outbreak. The next morning, I met with an agent. I told him the story, and of course, he knew. Now, why he didn't call me,
Give you the heads up. Yeah.
okay?
It was a test. How bad did you want his business? Are you willing to sleep through the E. coli?
Sean, it's the moral of the story.
Yeah.
If you're working for
makes
the
your
firm,
biome
are you
better.
doing that?
I'm on the road back home, Stuart. I'm
Yes, you are.
not sticking around.
Yes, you are. That guy, and going back to our Bills analogy here,
Yeah.
the sympathy factor, that guy felt so bad for me. He signed up that day. I got a deal from that guy the next day. He stayed with me till he sold his business.
Wow.
Awesome.
I don't know many people that would have done that.
Yeah. That's
And I don't
awesome.
know if I would have done that if I was working for somebody else.
Probably not.
Just keep pushing through, man. Dude, that is phenomenal.
Love that story.
I
And
love
that's,
it.
I
Love
think,
it.
when you're in the position that we're in, you do things like that. Would I
Sure.
do it now? Man, at
I
my
think
age,
you would. Stuart,
I
I'm
don't-
saying
yeah.
you would.
Right.
I'm saying you would. I
You're like,
know
I'm
you.
going to Super 8 for $49.99 a night. That's how I'm living in this West Virginia town. All right, cool. Well, let's do this. Before we shut it down, why don't you tell people where they can learn more about you and your company? Where would you like them to go to get more information?
Come to our website, which is premiumfinancebrokerage.com. You can also find me at LinkedIn. Where else? We're on we're on Twitter. But I think the best way to get us, guys, is to come to our website.
Website, contact information, go from there.
Yeah,
all
we'll try
there.
to put the links up on there too.
Awesome. Well, hey, Stuart, fantastic interview. Thank you for not only contributing, but thank you also for being a listener. Greatly appreciate that. And that's all we have for this one, folks. So thank you for tuning in again to another episode of Bricks and Risk. See you soon. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Bricks and Risk. Our goal is that you walk away with 1 or 2 valuable nuggets, and we greatly appreciate you sharing your time with us today. You can find all BNR episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcast content. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing.